everybody. Welcome to this special edition of The World This Week. Minorities in Israel. We'll bring you a few angles of this very diverse place. And we'll start off in the southern city of Dimona. Among Israel's many exotic minorities, if you will, probably none is more outstanding than the Hebrews of Dimona. They came here from Chicago 40 years ago, against all odds. And today, they're on a sure path to become part of Israel's mainstream society. The next story was filmed as part of our joint project with IDC, Israel's largest private college. Here's Hadar Tzur with the story of the Dimona Hebrews.
About 5,000 people live in this village of peace. They maintain a vegan and modest life, abstain from alcohol, drugs, and tobacco, worship God, and sing the songs of freedom. The community of the Black Hebrews of Dimona lives a life following Jewish biblical traditions, but their story is far from being peaceful.
When we first got here, that's what it was, basically desert. This is where our ancestors were from. Right. So we were returning back to the promised land in which our forefathers came from.
It all began in Chicago in 1967 when factory worker Ben Carter had a vision. In it, the angel Gabriel told him that he and his close one should go to Israel and reestablish the kingdom of God from which they were exiled thousands of years ago. 2 years later, Carter came with a group of African Americans to Dimona in southern Israel. It was nothing like a promised land.
Being a Black Hebrew, in terms of being so-called Black American in the United States, wasn't easy. So being a Black American that was a Hebrew in the United States was even more difficult.
Israel refused to acknowledge their existence in Dimona. Not being able to prove their Jewish lineage according to Jewish law, they were not granted citizenship or given any legal status. They were branded as outcasts.
We didn't know, as many have explained to me, that once we got here, that we wouldn't really be accepted, in terms of our identity.
But a lot has changed since then. Most notably, a new generation was born in Israel. One of these young members of the community, born and raised in Israel, is Ashriel, the youngest of 15. He resides in the Village of Peace along with his 4 mothers. Age 22, he's a student of government in the Interdisciplinary Center in Herzliya, north of Tel Aviv. He speaks the language, he knows the culture, he even volunteered for full military service in the Israel Defense Forces.
I did the military because this gave me an opportunity to be able to expose myself and my community from another light and be able to really attack these things from another angle and show them, obviously, that I don't have anything that I need to prove to anyone.
Israeli society has also changed over the years. While serving as a minister in the 1970s and 80s, Shimon Peres publicly spoke out against the community in Israel. But in 2008, President Shimon Peres chose to celebrate his 85th birthday in no other place but Dimona, with the Black Hebrews. There he told them, "Your community is beloved in Israel." We've seen this shift in many other areas of mainstream culture. Members of the community opened a vegan restaurant on Ben Yehuda Street, right in the heart of Tel Aviv. Some of them participate in primetime reality TV music shows. A local singer was even chosen to represent Israel in the Eurovision Song Contest. A generation later, they're more of an exotic minority than the outcasts they once were.
So when we see these doors opening, we want to take that full opportunity to be able to come and present it from another angle that you have never saw us from. I'm going to be the Prime Minister of Israel.
The Dimona Hebrews, unique but a very small minority. There are many minorities here in Israel. The largest and most complex is the Arab minority, of course. With us is Ayman Siksak to talk about the Arabs. The Druze minority historically took the path of being loyal to the State of Israel. We'll ask what it means. Former Knesset member Zaidan Atshi is here with us. And the African migrants, the recent phenomenon that has already exploded in this country in many ways. Mutassim Ali is here as well to discuss this. Thank you for coming, all of you.
Thank you very much.
Ayman, the largest minority, we'll start with you. If you can pinpoint the single most important, let's say, force behind the Arab minority in Israel, the biggest concern, the biggest motive, what would it be?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say it's fun to be the largest minority in a room for a change. Well, it is a very complex question, but I think one of the most persisting concerns historically for Arabs in Israel has been the question of place. Where is their place in Israeli society? And this is an ever-evolving question. Israel is a young country, and I think many other sectors feel that their place is constantly shifting and changing. And with every dramatic event, which in Israel happens often, most recently we've seen it with Protective Edge, every event like this, I think specifically Protective Edge is a game changer for Arabs in Israel. I mean, we've seen many protests that were extremely racist, which I think made Arabs in Israel re-question where their place is. We talk a lot about integration. We hear a lot about integration. I think nowadays it's no longer a question at all whether Arabs are integrated in Israel or not. We see statistics that Arabs in Israel have integrated into the economy sector, into the business sector. Certainly in academia, there are many more and more Arab students every year. But I think what's changing is the meaning of this integration. We hear Avigdor Lieberman, our foreign minister, saying that Arabs need to pledge their allegiance to the state. And this, I think, is what's happening most dangerously and dramatically for the Arab community.
Question of loyalty. Every other day something happens, and then either the Israeli right wing, as you mentioned, accuses the Arabs of not being loyal, or within the Arab Israeli society, there are forces and voices who say, we're Palestinians, we're not here at all.
Absolutely. And I think because integration now no longer means just social integration and economic integration, it's shifted into ideological integration. Arabs in Israel find themselves in a very strange and difficult place.
Former Knesset member Zaidan Achi, you're from the Druze minority, and it's perceived that the Druze took this strategic decision to as Ayman put it, to be loyal, to pledge allegiance to the state of Israel. Tell me about it.
First of all, it's in our religion and our beliefs that you have to cling to the land, to your original land. And we feel that this is our original land. Why? Because if you are not clinging to your land, you will lose your identity, and you are not anywhere. You are nowhere in the Middle East, because the problem of minorities is more and more expanding and getting new avenues which are very distressive to the general minorities. So the Druze, as a wisdom or philosophy for their survival, took a very different and original ideology to link to the land. So the Druze in Lebanon to Lebanon, so the Druze in Syria to Syria. That's because we don't have a national aspiration to establish a Druze land or Druze state for our own. Mm-hmm. So we have to integrate despite the fact or the shortcomings or the inequalities that Ayman mentioned. But we are in the same, I would say, in the same yard, playing in the same yard together with the majority.
Yeah, but Arabs also would like, to have the land, but they do have other aspirations, while the Druze decided to join Israeli army, to be part of Israeli mainstream society, not necessarily to identify with the left wing or Palestinian aspirations for a Palestinian state. There are Druze in the right wing Israeli parties. How do you explain that?
You know, Yaakov, I have to be very frank and even very honest. No minority in the whole entire world can claim equality to the majority. There is nothing in existence in any democratic society that the minority, if it's color or language or origin, feel the same thing as a majority. Nowhere. So the Druze took this wisdom. If our medical insurance is secured, our compulsory education is secured, if we are free to move all over Israel and beyond Israel and into Israel, if we have a religious freedom, we can build our mosques, practice our religion, sow the Druze in their own holy places and the Christians. These principles are lingual freedom. Arabic is second formal language of the State of Israel. We have to feel, even if the majority doesn't bring us to the same equality that we are dreaming for. So we have to impose ourselves and to prove that we are loyal citizens. But these principles, the basic things that are secured for a minority at the beginning is enough. What is lacking among the general Arab minority, that the majority within the Jewish governments did not bring them to share in the decision-making process, which means the sovereignty for Israel. It's also remained in a Jewish hand or Jewish mind. I would suggest to the Israeli governments to impose loyalty on the Arabs and to bring them to the decision-making process for the national questions of Israel.
Mutassim Ali, you're originally from Darfur?
That's right.
And recently, many African migrants came here to it. It's such a complicated place. Why here?
I know it's really very complicated, and everybody's asking this question. And I think the answer is really very simple. Most of people who made their way to Israel, Sudanese or Eritreans, and almost all of them coming from the regions that experienced genocide and ethnic cleansing. If we were talking about Sudan, Darfur, Noble Mountains, and Blue Nile, these are the regions in Sudan that are going through war and genocides. Talking of Eritreans, they're fleeing one of the worst dictatorship regimes in the world. They call it as North Korea of Africa. And so from Eritrea or Sudan going through Egypt, because again, Egypt is not a safe place for all of us. I mean, because of the diplomatic ties between Egypt and our government in Sudan or Eritrea, so we can easily be deported back to where we came from, where we face
that's part of the big argument here, because in Israel there are many who say not all of these people are here because they were persecuted. They had other motives, such economical motives. They're looking for jobs, better life, and so forth. And now you're in the middle of a huge struggle here in this country, and it takes a toll on you.
I know it's strange that it's still Israeli government and some officials in the government saying that all of these are migrant workers, while when we came first, they didn't give us a chance even to claim why we're here. They gave us a group protection, the Sudanese and Eritreans. You cannot be deported back because there's a problem there, but at the same time, you're not refugees. It's kind of contradiction. Personally, I submitted my asylum request since 2012. Until today, there is no any decision about it. And then they're still calling me a migrant worker. I think this argument is really baseless.
Ayman, if you predict, if you will, if you look at the next generation, you look at the younger Arabs in this country, do you see down the road any sort of integration into one country, or this is a struggle that will go on forever?
I don't think it will go on forever. Unfortunately, I think much like the political situation in Israel, it will get worse before it will get better. What I do see, specifically, I think, in my view, is there is a younger generation that's more aware of their Palestinian history, that's more aware of the social issue. I would say that personally, I feel like the older generation was more pragmatic, was more interested in integrating at all cost, that saw the benefits of integration. And in this way, us, the younger generation, benefited from that largely. But, much like the story of every generation, there is a counter move against the older one. Mm-hmm. And for me specifically, I feel like there's a generation now that's more interested in their mother tongue in Arabic, that's more interested in making themselves visible as Arabs in Israel. It's just a question now of what this means. We mentioned a lot of times about going into mainstream Israeli society. And it's a funny question because even that is changing. What is mainstream in Israel nowadays? It's not what it used to be 20 years ago. We see the Mizrahi community being more active and lively and louder. There are many struggles in Israel nowadays, so even the mainstream is changing.
Last word to you, Mtassim. Are you optimistic?
I'm always optimistic, and I know things will change, but it takes a little bit of time. But I think since we have a Supreme Court, I mean the High Court of Justice in Israel making such decisions of, the anti-infiltration law is unconstitutional, I'm hopeful that things will change, and for sure it will change.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. We hardly touched the surface of this issue. Maybe we'll have a chance to talk about it later. Thank you very much. This has been our special edition of The World This Week. We'll see you here next Sunday. Have a great week.